Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Foster Files. My name is Kelly, and I am a foster with Cross Your Paws Rescue in the Pittsburgh area of Pennsylvania. And I have an awesome guest on the show with me today. Heather is another foster with Cross Your Paws. I think she's one of the approximately 17 Heathers we have as part of the organization. But Heather has really stepped up and done some work with some of the more disturbing cases that we get at Cross Your Paws. And the reality of rescue is that we are going to come across what we call humane cases. So I asked Heather to please talk to us today about some of those cases, about the work that goes into those cases, because I want to shed a light on even some of the bleaker part of rescue. Everybody knows that the goal of this podcast is to get people interested in fostering and adopting and volunteering and to really understand the scope of the problem in animal rescue right now. And so we can't talk about the scope of the problem without talking about some of the sadder things, right? So Heather, welcome. I am excited to have a conversation with you today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I want you to tell me a little bit about yourself. I want you to tell me about the dogs that you have in your house right now. Who are you the mom of these days?
Sure. Well, my name is Heather B. I'm a foster and volunteer through Cross Your Paws. I've been with Cross Your Paws Rescue for about 3 years now. And previously, when we lived in Ohio, I was with an Ohio Rescue for 5 years. Currently in my house right now, I have a 2.5-year-old Purebred named Dewey. He actually started out with Cross Your Paws when he was 8 weeks old and was adopted out. Before the time he was 11 months old, he was actually readopted out 3 other times. And he came back to us at 11 months old as an emergency surrender from another foster. And another foster brought him actually to our house one evening and just said, hey, look, you may be interested in this dog. He kind of has some quirks. Let me know what you think. And we fell in love with him, and he was the dog that never left. So we've had Dewey for about 1.5 years right now. I joke around that he is the college frat boy version in dog form. That's 105 pounds. But he's just 100% good boy and full of love, and he's the amazing family dog. And currently, we do have a foster in the home. We've named him George. He's about 10.5 years old, and he was a recent humane case. His owner actually threw him out of a car and drove away. So he came into our household very malnourished, about 30 pounds underweight, had open wounds and sores and granulomas all over his body. So we have had him for the last 2.5 weeks. And are getting him on the mend to the road to recovery right now. But it's been a process over the last 2 weeks with him.
You know, I'm sure that it has. So since you brought up George, let's talk a little bit about these humane cases, because I have not dealt with one personally, so I am here to learn. So tell us first, how does Cross Your Paws, or an organization like Cross Your Paws, how do they hear about these cases when they come up?
With humane cases, it can go a couple ways. Usually it's through word of mouth, possibly a fellow humane agent. We do have a humane agent through Westmoreland County who also works with Cross Your Paws. Sometimes there's humane cases out of different counties in which they'll reach out to different area rescues, seeing if there is an emergency foster on standby or someone that could take in a dog while there's potential court proceedings going on with the case. Just somewhere safe the dog can go to recover or get medication and to rehabilitate, depending how the charges go with the owner.
When this and other humane cases come about, what steps does Cross Your Paws take in order to see whether or not that case can be accepted? Because my assumption is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, my assumption is they're very time sensitive. Like this is something that is a need immediately. So how does a foster-based organization, how do they go about trying to figure out if this is a case we can take on? Are there other rescues that are being contacted at the same time?
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be very, very case by case, depending which county you're in. We have to abide by county protocols. Like with us being Westmoreland County, we have to abide by our protocols. So we do have a humane agent. They would go actually investigate the case. From there, the goal is to get emergency surrender of the dog. And from there, as a rescue, we have to assess the dog and get, if the humane officer can't get the dog immediate medical treatment, we have to be able to get the dog treatment right away, just to see what the severity of the injury, abuse, or neglect case is going on with that dog. It's a process, but I mean, ultimately the goal is to making sure we have enough fosters that can kind of come in to help do these emergency surrenders or these emergency kind of humane cases going into it. But the biggest thing is if the owner can sign off the rights, depending if there's going to be charges going against the owner, and making sure we get immediate medical care for this dog who is at this point most likely in critical need.
So that was going to be my question. I think it's so interesting. And I think that people are going to have a lot of very strong opinions about the fact that if we just use George as an example, this owner threw him out of the car and we still had to obtain an emergency surrender.
That's what we ended up having to do. The owner is currently awaiting a court date, but the owner surrendered rights. So George is in our rescue possession. Once he is rehabilitated, he is able to be adopted. But yeah, it's going to be up ultimately to the judge and the police department, the humane agent, to make sure that no, this dog is not safe in this environment. He needs removed immediately.
Even if he is fully rehabilitated, he can't be adopted out until the case is settled. And that can sometimes take a couple of years.
It could. In this particular case, he is owner surrendered. So he is our dog. The owner can't get him back, but there are going to be charges with the owner though. So the owner is waiting.
So there are cases in which the humane officer or the police may go to them and say, hey, we have this dog. We're in possession of this dog that we know you abandoned or neglected or whatever. Do you want to surrender it? And they might say no. And then in a circumstance like that, we have to wait for the case to play out in court.
Right. And sometimes it could turn into a warrant too for the owner. It just depends. But that's why it's so important that if you see something, say something. If you notice an animal being abused, neglected, a hoarding situation, for example, too, it is so important to advocate for these dogs because they can't speak up for themselves. Or if a dog is in too cold of an environment or too hot an environment, speak up and say something. Call your local humane agency. If you know a humane officer, call your police department to report, a potential abuse or neglect case, or even a welfare check on these dogs, because their lives do matter as well. And, there can be criminal charges pressed against these owners. And sometimes you're the only voice these dogs have.
So one of the recent laws that was passed in Pennsylvania, which I'm sure you are extremely aware of, is Libre's Law. Does that ring a bell for you? Haven't?
Yes, but yep.
So this is a little bit of a teaser for people, but Janine, who is the founder of Speranza Animal Rescue, who spearheaded the work for Libre's Law, is going to be on the podcast here in the next couple of weeks. So I'm excited to talk to her about the work that she did to get that law passed, because without legislation, you can call the police departments all you want, and there might not be any actual action or consequence.
Right. And with that, too, it's so important. Can't stress enough that, I always tell people, don't be afraid of a humane case. You're interested in fostering an animal through any rescue, even if it's not our rescue. I always say, try it out once and see if it's for you. If it's a humane case, don't be afraid of a humane case. These dogs need love, too. They need healing, and you may be the key to their forever down the road. So I just say, have an open mind and an open heart. And don't think these dogs are absolutely horrible dogs coming into your home, because they're not. Their lives have been turned upside down, and they just need somewhere to go where they can recover and have their faith in humans again, since their main human failed them.
Why do you think that people are hesitant to bring on humane cases in the fostering sense of things? Why do you think people hesitate to do that?
I think it's the stigma that when you think of humane case, you think, oh, it's going to be a horribly long court proceeding. What if I fall in love with this dog? Or there has to be a reason why this owner did what they did to this dog. 8 times out of 10, it's not the reason why. It's a complete misconception. And that's why I'd love to turn that stigma around about these cases, that out of all the humane cases that we have had, both in Pennsylvania and in my former state, I mean, these dogs have been amazing. A lot have been broken. But to be able to rehabilitate them in our home and have them come to life again and look into their eyes and see their soul and have them gain that trust and love from you. And then you see them go on to a new forever. That was their second chance. It is the most beautiful, most selfless, rewarding thing that as a foster and my family absolutely love to do. And that's why we keep doing it over and over again. We try and get the cases that can be overlooked, whether it be a humane case, mama dog that was coming from a rescue that's being passed up on because her puppies are the first ones to be fostered. I mean, I always try to do the cases where, this dog's been sitting and this dog, really could have a great chance at life. And we like taking those chances on those dogs.
Do you approach fostering those dogs any differently than fostering other dogs that aren't part of humane cases? And if so, what different approach do you take?
I treat every case as its own. I always say no case is going to be the same. With my humane cases, I always say just kind of tread lightly. They need decompressing, just like a regular shelter dog who's coming into your home as a foster for the first time does. But with humane cases, they do need a little extra TLC, whether it be more frequent doctor's appointments, more medical care, more medications, more therapy. So it does take a little bit more time with these dogs, but you see resiliency on all ends, whether it be just a foster coming into your home just for regular shelter where they were instantly surrendered a couple of days prior or a couple months prior, or this dog who has had the most horrific, horrible life you can imagine and has lost faith in humanity. And then they're finally seeing that, not all people are bad and are giving them that extra chance.
When do you make that decision that a dog like George has been rehabilitated? What does that look like? Because I can't imagine that there's a switch that is flipped, right? And they're going to go into their new home and they're still going to need work and care in most circumstances. So how do you make that determination?
Right. So no matter if it's a humane case or a regular potential adoption case with a regular foster, I'm always transparent with my potential adopters saying, this is what we know of their history. This is where they started emotionally in our home, physically in our home, and this is how far we have gotten them. If a dog has quirks or insecurities or fears or anything, I let the adopter know the good, the bad, the ugly, just so they know what they're getting into. And with humane cases, it's no exception to a lot of them, will require kind of that special person that's going to accept them as they are. But with all of my adopters, whether it be, a regular foster coming in or a humane case, I am available 24/7. They have my personal cell phone number. So it's like, even though you adopted this, this dog, I'll be along with you on your journey for as long as you want me to be. So if they need help in the process, I'll be more than happy to help them along the way too, or gather whatever resource we possibly can as a rescue to help it be a successful adoption for the family.
Right, but how do you get to that point? And all of that is great information. And I think all that would encourage people to consider adopting from an organization specifically like Cross Your Paws, because we're all encouraged to be transparent. But how do you decide, like with George, is there a milestone that you're looking for to know that he's ready to go?
Right. So with George's particular case, he's been to the vet several times. We have regular folks at the vet. We're doing medication management right now. We're doing specialized baths and movements with him just to get him ready to be adoptable at this point. So in his particular case, the key is the regular vet appointments, the follow-ups, checking to see how he's doing on his weight gain to make sure we're reaching little goals, whether it be gain a couple pounds every week or every 2 weeks. Let's see if we can get these wounds to heal or get on a better path with medication. So it's just going to be what the vet thinks and what we think as well, too, just see how far he's coming along. There is no timeline as far as how long a particular humane case is going to get to when they're going to be adoptable. It could be a simple thing of this dog's adoptable in a week, this dog's adoptable in 2 weeks. I've had humane cases where it has taken 5 or 6 months to get the dog ready to be adoptable. So it truly just varies kind of dog to dog and what the needs are. But in George's case, though, he has come so far since we've had him. And we're at the point, the vet is at the point where he is deemed adoptable, but there's still going to be some care that's going to be needed on at least for the next couple months with him, though.
Personally, one of the things that would concern me, and I put my concerns and my fears and my issues out there so that people feel comfortable talking about them. But one of the things that would concern me is that when you bring in a dog that has not been vetted for me, dog friendly, and I know you have children. So when you're bringing in these dogs and they haven't been tested to see if they're good with kids, how do you go about figuring that out, making sure that everybody's going to be safe in your home?
Yeah. So with us, a lot of it is slow introduction. We do slow introduction with the kids, slow introduction with our home dog. We also make sure in the beginning, too, that we never have the dogs alone with the kids where we're not present in that area, too. Like with my children, I have young children who are under the age of 6 right now, too. So they know, like, this dog is a special case. Don't get close to his face. Don't do that. But they take part in helping me care for the dog. But they know they can't be alone at this point with the dog, too. And as far as dog testing goes, as soon as we get a dog in our possession, we try to immediately dog test them with other dogs, too. Whether it be with my home dog or we have a couple of fosters and volunteers that do dog testing within our rescue as well. So they will go ahead and test the dog, too. But just like with any regular dog you have in the home, they may not like certain dogs, too. Like I know with my home dog,
Oh yeah.
he does better with bigger breeds than with little dogs.
Mhm.
He's afraid of little dogs for some reason, even though he's 105 pounds. So so in his particular case, he does better with big dogs. We know what his quirks are and everything too. So just because it's a humane case or a dog coming in, we always do just slow introductions to everything too. But the key is going to be to get this dog tested, especially if there is a dog in the home or going to be by the dog. And if we have potential adopter coming in too, we always make sure we try and have the whole family with them during the meet and greets, along with any dogs or cats they may have in the home, just to see if it is kind of a good bond before they're adopted out.
You do anything different with the applications? Because I would imagine that a humane case, once they're ready to be adopted, I think that there's a lot to be said for the story that's told behind the dog, really can drive increased applications, right?
Right.
People feel emotional about those dogs as
Mhm.
they should. So do you do anything different with the adoption
Mhm.
process?
Well, I'm not part of the application team, but I
Okay.
with George's particular case, I did do a video on our Cross Your Paws page, a little bit about him and everything too. I we have several members of our application team that do kind of thorough vetting of our potential adopters, and they give them all the information that they can on the particular case that they're interested in. And then when we do initially have our meet and greet scheduled, I kind of go over more information since I'm the one that the dog has been with. So any questions that they have, me and my family answer them fully and wholeheartedly with everything that we've experienced so far up to this point with that particular dog. They may.
Necessarily sound like you're doing anything different because George is a humane case. You're doing what you do with every
Exactly.
foster that you have to make sure they
Exactly.
go into the right home.
Yeah, we always treat, yeah, we, like you said, every case is different, but we treat every dog with the utmost love and respect. And it doesn't matter if they have medical needs or not. They're going to get the royal VIP treatment when they're in our home. And, we want them to be the best version of themselves when they're leaving our home into their new forever home.
One of the things that I talked with Lauren about is training. How much training do you try to do? Do you try to get the dogs to a humane or otherwise? Do you try to get the dogs to a certain level of either crate training or leash training or being housebroken or not jumping before you adopt them out? Or do you do that or approach that differently? Do you not worry about that? What does that look like for you?
So every foster is going to be a little bit different. My goal as a foster, when I get our foster dogs, no matter what kind of case it is I would like to have them crate trained because we don't know what kind of environment they're going to be going into, whether their adopters are going to want them in the bed with them or want them to sleep in a cage at night. So my goal is I want to try to have them crate trained and be able to be in a room by themselves where they're not going to be destructive. And I try to have them fully potty trained. It could be a puppy. It could be a 5-year-old that has incontinence issues. We try and work around each dog's needs and quirks, and we try and get them as well prepared as they can to be adopted out.
Think that's a great I definitely am starting to come around to the whole crate training every foster thing. I
Mhm.
have been very lax in that area in
Yeah.
the
Yeah, and every
so
foster will have different needs. Like we have like white noise machines for our dogs. So we're out of the house. We always even my home dog will have them in the crates, but have the white noise machine on, and we have dog calling music in the background. So we always make it a calming environment for them, even if we're out of the home for an hour or two during the day.
come over and just like set up
I know. I'm like,
my
I'm
house.
like,
I agree.
I just want a white noise machine myself. I love it. But no, but when we tell adopters that too, they're able to go in our home and they do the meet and greets. They kind of see the setup we have and the cage setup and everything too. We let them know that this is where they started. This is where they're at right now with as far as like crate training goes, potty training. I try and work on basic commands with the dog too. We try and get on the best potty schedule we can as well too. If we have a potential adopter, we always try and see what is your home lifestyle. Are you working full time? Are you retired? Are you home full time? Because we want to make sure we get the best fit dog for the potential adopters too.
It's really a puzzle, and
Mhm.
you want to try to put that puzzle together in the best way possible. I think
Mhm.
that there is some misconception out there. You know, I've had conversation with friends, and I had a conversation recently. And she said, you know, before we got the dog that we have now, which they ended up purchasing, unfortunately, she's like, oh, we applied to all these rescues and none of them would adopt to me because I rent. And I think the reality of it is that there are going to be rescues out there that won't adopt to renters or that won't adopt to people that don't have a fenced in yard or so on and so forth. But what we're really trying to do as a rescue organization, even though Cross Your Paws doesn't have specific, requirements against those two things, is we're trying to make sure that that dog doesn't get then returned to us.
Exactly.
Because that's not only is that hard on the dog, but that is a burden on the system because
Absolutely.
theoretically, once that dog has been adopted out, that foster is now able to take in another dog and now their home is occupied.
Yes.
And to bring that dog back is going to burden the rescue. So I think it's great that you're talking about, having those conversations because we're not necessarily looking serious. Obviously some applications we look at and there are certain circumstances in which it's going to be a no right away.
Right.
But for the most part, we're looking at it. We're not saying that we're judging you for being a renter, or we're judging you for not having a fence, or we're judging you for being gone for 8 hours a day. Many of us as fosters are in exactly that same scenario.
Right.
But what we're trying to do is find the best scenario that's going to have the least chance of that dog being returned.
Exactly.
What drew you to animal rescue and how long? You said you were with your rescue in Ohio for 5 years?
5 years. Yes, 5 years prior to Pennsylvania.
So you've been in rescue now for how many years total?
About 8.5 years right now. We've probably had close to 150 fosters around there at this point.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, what put you there? I mean, because you've had fosters now and been in rescue through, if I'm doing the math right, at least 2 pregnancies.
Yep.
2 little tiny babies.
Yep.
And I mean, man, that's incredible dedication. What put you in that place in your life?
So I was born and raised with dogs my whole life. I knew as an adult I wanted to eventually foster. I have an older child who's 22 years old, who's off away at college right now. But when she was about 10 years old, we decided to start volunteering at a local rescue. We were in Ohio. And from there, it was like, well, maybe we're ready to, get our own house and adopt. And I got married. We adopted our first dog and we had our dog for about a year who was a rescue from the rescue we were volunteering at. And then we decided, well, let's try and foster some dogs. So we kind of got into the fostering point from there. And with my daughter, we would have her help pick out the dogs that we'd foster during that time. So we did that for 5 years in Ohio. And then we moved to Pennsylvania. And then in the course of less than 2 years, I had 2 more children at that point. And now that my boys are 4 and 5, and my daughter's out of the home, now the boys have an active role in picking all the fosters we have, whether it be a humane case or from a shelter, if that's either in-state or out-of-state. So they actually have a huge role in who comes into our home dog-wise. It could be a puppy. It could be a humane case. It could be someone who's 10 and a half years old. But the boys have a very much an active role in every dog that comes into home and helping us care for it too, because I want to teach them responsibility and unconditional love and nurture. And I think it's a great thing. And as a family, we love what we do. We have a lot of outsiders that kind of look and go, well, how can you do what you do? If you did this, I would probably keep all of the dogs. And it is hard. There's some dogs who will have an imprint on your heart forever. And you'll probably cry sometimes for weeks over letting them go. But you see this amazing life that they have with their adopter. And it's an amazing feeling. And I keep telling, everyone that we come in contact with, we need more fosters. Being a foster, we are the stepping stone to a lot of these dogs having a chance at a second life or being put down. If there's not enough fosters, these dogs are going to lose their lives. And these are amazing dogs that just need a second chance. So even though we only foster 1 or 2 at a time, at one point, I think I had 3 or 4 fosters going on at once. But, every one you can get into your home to foster, whether it be for, I think my lowest foster I had was in our house for 18 hours. And my longest foster is in the home for 8 months. So, I mean, it's going to vary foster to foster, but we love our time with all of our fosters. And I actually have a memory book that I've made my children with all of our fosters so that as the boys get older too, they're able to turn the pages on our album of all the fosters that we have had. Even the past 3 years, we've been with Cross Your Paws too.
So you as an adult, you can understand what you're doing when you have that heartbreak of adopting out a foster that you love. How do you talk to your kids about that? Because I imagine that there's going to be some that it breaks their heart, ones that they get especially bonded to. You're a loving, wonderful mother. How do you navigate that with your kids? And how would you recommend other people navigate that if they're considering fostering?
Right. So I always tell people that with my particular family, when we started fostering when the boys were born, we did a couple fosters. And if it became too hard for them where they became too attached, we took a little break. we took a step back. It could have been like we stopped fostering for a few weeks. We stopped fostering at one point for a couple months, but we gave the boys a breather. And then we had them start taking an active role when they were ready. We listened to them on when they wanted to foster again. And we were kind of look at some of the fosters that were available, and they really loved the concept of being able to pick the foster. So, once we make it a family decision, the boys said, we want this one. We always see if that dog was available, we'd foster them. And the one rule that I have in my home is that when we have any of our fosters adopted out, I always tell the adopter my boys have to be home to say goodbye to the foster. So that is my one rule that we have, is that the boys have to be able to say goodbye. And that has stuck by us since we've started. And I think that has been a great thing. So the boys can say goodbye. And they understand that these dogs are just in our home because they need care and they need love, but that we're not their family in the long term, that we're their family right now, but that their adopter family is going to be coming soon to find them. So the boys are always there for the meet and greets. They're there when when they say their final farewell to them. And then they always make sure that and we have the pictures on our phone, and then we print them out at the local drugstore and we put them in our album. So it's routine at this point, but the boys love it too. But like I said, on occasion they get a little attached. And if that happens, we just take a little break. I increase my volunteer hours within the organization if I'm not fostering, or I'll do a temporary hold for another foster that's taking on a dog. But yeah, I listen to what my family's needs are at the point. Even as I say, even if not fostering, I'm still always there somehow. I still somehow always have an active role, no matter what it is.
Yeah. And that's really a lot of the point that I want to get across to people, is that you can volunteer in a way that suits your life. You don't have to give up your life and what makes sense for your family and for your household in order to make a difference in the lives of these dogs. And I think that that's such an important thing to get across.
Yeah, and I'm fortunate and very honored that I'm involved in several teams outside of fostering. So I help on transportation day, whether it be cleaning out the vehicle after the dogs come out, help unloading the dogs, or giving the adopters or fosters their medical papers. I'm also in the vaccination team, so I help give the dogs their booster shots that are needed too. I'm on the fundraising team, so on some of our biggest events that we do to raise money for the dogs, I'm involved in that as well. So like I said, even if I take a step back temporarily for fostering, I volunteer in other ways for the organization. But I mean, fostering is definitely in my heart always, and I will always find some way to have a foster role going on with that. Even if a foster has a dog that needs transport to the vet, if I don't have a dog in my possession, I will take them to the vet just to get together treatment and come back home to their foster. But I love it though. It's very rewarding.
When you talk about fostering to people and you talk about the reward of fostering, I am certain that there's a particular case that comes to mind. I want you to tell me that story about that dog. The one that comes to mind, that's really the case that you talk about, the reward.
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest case that comes to mind most recently was we had a Great Dane that was surrendered, that was severely malnourished and was over 40 pounds underweight. And she came into our home, and I was on a feeding schedule with her every 1 to 2 hours. So it was basically like raising a newborn baby all over again. So it was a little bit daunting at first getting back on that routine schedule of feeding, but she was just so malnourished and mistreated in the situation that she was in. But it was so worth it because you don't think about what you have to go through because you're going through that with the dog together. But to be able to see her flourish and gain the much needed weight and recover back. And then when we brought her back for her meet and greet and then saw the home that she was going to, and you just saw her eyes just light up when she met the other adopters' dogs in the home. It was like you knew that this was her family. And it was like, I took her from where she was to where she needed to be. I was that stepping stone. Just knew right away, like, those are her people, though. And she was one of the most rewarding cases. And we have a couple other cases, back from Ohio when we did more of the humane cases too, where we had a couple hoarding situations, a couple animal cruelty situations where the dogs were burned and severe neglect. And those were some of the harder ones. Those were before my boys were born. So it was just kind of adults in the home with us taking care of the foster at the time. Those are the more heartbreaking cases, but they did recover. They did go to great homes. So it's rewarding, but it can be challenging. But it's very rewarding, though, with it, though, knowing that we are making a difference.
Yeah, I'm just speechless just because, like, I think about the small amount of dogs that I've had so far, and I've only had one case of a dog that came in that was in not great shape. It was at beginning of 2024, former volunteer with Cross Your Paws brought up these dogs from a farm in West Virginia, and there were two of them, and they were both pretty severely malnourished. And I got one of them, and I had to put her on the refeeding schedule. And her name is Chili Bean now, and me and her mom talk relatively regularly, and I've seen her a couple of times since she was adopted, and boy, Chili Bean is a very fitting name for that dog who came in skin and bones and is now bouncing off the dang walls. But it's so incredibly rewarding to see them go to their people.
It is. I know we have the sadder cases too, where it's the more critical cases when you're dealing with something like parvovirus. I've had puppies and dogs that have had parvovirus. I've had some make it, some not make it. I've had one that died in my arms. But we knew the moment that they passed that they were with someone that loved them unconditionally. I mean, it's like those cases that could happen literally within 20 hours. It is 24 hours. It is a matter of life and death, and it could happen out of nowhere, no matter what you do. And I'm thankful for the 3 parvo cases we were able to save, but there's always that one that we weren't able to at no fault of our own. But it's still just as heartbreaking, though. But it just has I take some solace in knowing that at least the dog was with me. It was being held to the very last breath.
Heather, there's a lot of burnout in animal rescue. And you're dealing with the worst of the worst relatively regularly. And again, you're a mom. You've got 2 young kids of your own. How do you survive this every day?
I think it's important to listen to your heart and listen to your gut. And most importantly, listen to your family. You need to do what's right for you. If you need to take a step back, it's okay to do that. There's always going to be dogs that need your help. There's other ways. If you need to take a step back from fostering, if it's too overbearing, go find passion in something that you want to do temporarily to get your mind off it. It could be either volunteering within the rescue or doing something completely different outside the rescue, like joining a crocheting team or something. I mean, sometimes you need that break, and that's okay. That is no fault of your own. But I'm at the point with like other people too. I'd rather someone take a break and come back and be refreshed and ready to do it again than someone who's just burnt out and leaves, and they were just such an asset. Knowing that this could have been resolved, because it's going to happen in every single rescue. It happened in my other state, it happens here in Pennsylvania in every rescue too, because we have a lot of dogs that come from out of state and in-state surrenders as well too, as the humane cases. So it's just important to, listen to yourself, listen to your body, and listen to what you need to do. And that's okay. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer, but just follow your gut. If you need to take a break, take a break. It's okay. Come back when you're ready. But know that we're there for you. The dogs are there for you. And it's always think too, don't be afraid to reach out for help. If it's something where, you can't do it anymore, reach out and see if someone else can help you, because we have so many amazing people, especially within our rescue, that are willing to give an extra hand or a load off your shoulders if you need that too. And we try to help each other out any way we can.
So for anybody, I never know who this podcast is going to reach. And, it may reach people in Ohio if people from your former rescue, get a hold of this. So where is your former rescue located? Let's plug them a moment, because I'm sure they need incredible fosters. So if there's somebody out there that wants to volunteer, we'd like to send them their way.
Our former rescue was Rescue Village in Northeast Ohio.
Okay, so like nearish the Cleveland area?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, about 20 minutes outside of Cleveland. Yeah.
Okay, Rescue Village. I will do my best to find their socials and tag them when we go ahead and release this episode. So at the end of each episode, I like to ask the people that I interview 2 things. The first thing is, if you could leave people with any one piece of knowledge or advice or thought when it comes to rescue and animal welfare and adoption and fostering, what would that be?
I think it'd be, if you're curious or even have just little initial thought that maybe this may be something you want to do, just reach out, fill out a foster or a volunteer application and talk to the application team and see if there's some way we can suit your needs. If it's not fostering, it could be volunteering. It could be anything from helping doing fundraising to giving vaccines to helping out a transport day, or to even sharing one of our dogs we have available for adoption. get some more information on what we do and the lives that we impact and touch every single day and see if it's something you're interested in. But if you're ever curious about it, though, I really urge you to just reach out and try it. You never know. You may fall in love with it.
That's awesome. I love that piece of advice. And then, of course, as you know, the second thing that I ask my guests to bring along is a foster spotlight. And you said you want to tell us a lot more about Mr. George. So please
Yes.
let us know
So,
what's going on with that guy.
yes. So Mr. George, he is approximately 10 and a half years old. He is a Great Dane boxer mix. We got him originally around 58 to 60 pounds. We have him up to 65 and a half pounds today. We've already had him for his third vet visit, and he is doing amazing recovering from his wounds and his malnourishment. He was able to get his shots today at his vet appointment, so he is officially adoptable. He currently does have a potential adopter, so we're hoping it's going to work out. We will see how this goes. He has been an amazing asset in our home, and I just love his little snuggles and nuzzles, and he loves to join me on the recliner. For being a dog that had such a rough beginning, he has come so far in such a short period of time, and he has definitely imprinted on our family. And he will honestly make the best addition to any family dynamic. He really is an amazing dog, and I'm definitely blessed to be his foster.
Aw, that's so awesome. Well, you'll definitely have to keep me posted if he gets adopted,
Definitely.
because
We will.
if I do a foster spotlight and
Yes.
he's not a foster anymore, I gotta let the
Yeah.
people know.
Yes. Yeah. We don't know. He's not adopted yet. So, but yes. But we will see how it goes with him, though.
Well, that's so exciting. And then at the end of the episodes, I do like to remind everyone, as always, you can follow the podcast at the Foster Files podcast on Instagram. You can go to crossyourpaws.com to reach out and fill out an application like Heather has suggested, or take a look at the profiles for any of our adoptable dogs or dogs that are in need of foster. And then Heather mentioned that she does a lot of work for our big fundraisers, and probably the biggest one of the year is coming up here in, as of this recording, 9 days, which is the Wags and Wine event, which is going to be at Bellaterra Vineyards in Hunker, Pennsylvania on September 19th from 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. So if you haven't yet purchased tickets, I don't know what the heck you're doing, because I've been talking about it for weeks, but please make sure you purchase tickets and come out to what's going to be a great event. I saw some of the baskets, and I know that there is going to be a giveaway for an incredible beach house on Emerald Isle, North Carolina. Yes. For the record, I am going after that hard because it's my husband's family vacations every year. So I'm going to go to Glows for that one.
It is stunning if you see the pictures. Yeah, I urge anyone, there are tickets still available. Don't miss your chance. I will be there as well. I'll be in my evening dress serving people. So
yes.
So you will see me there as well. It's a great night.
I am actually the presenting sponsor of the event, so I have decided not to serve anyone. I'm just going to come.
That's okay.
Hang out and have a good
enjoy your time.
Enjoy the event. Enjoy the event. And of course, enjoy the wine, because that's probably my favorite part. Besides the puppies that are going to be there, I keep forgetting to mention this. We are going to have foster puppies and adoptable dogs at Wags and Wine. So if you come for nothing else, come for the puppy snuggles.
Exactly. They're like good puppy snuggle.
Good puppy snuggle. Well, Heather, I cannot thank you enough for joining us. Honestly, these humane cases are so incredibly heartbreaking and so difficult. But knowing that there are people like you out there helping these dogs work through the worst of the worst is just, it's like Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers. And you're one of the helpers, and we're all super grateful for you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I do have to say, it's with George's case, it's been a team effort with a couple other fosters and volunteers, with Alyssa and with Alex as well. So major props to Alex and Alyssa, because without them, George coming into our home wouldn't have been possible. So it really was a team effort.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again, and thank you for coming on. And if we get another case, which obviously we don't want to, but I'll have you come on and talk about that one too. We'll give a little attention.
Great. Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great night.
Thank you all for listening and for paying some attention to these incredible stories we have. So I wanted to add an aside to the next few episodes here in September of 2025, because on today, which is September 15th of 2025, I became aware of a situation in Montana I think is worth talking about. So I'm going to put it to the end of the next few episodes here to bring some light. The Yellowstone Valley Animal Shelter in Billings, Montana, on September 10th, had to be completely evacuated of all people and all animals. It turns out that the crematorium that is utilized not just by the rescue, but by veterinary clinics in the area, is sometimes rented out by government officials to dispose of evidence via incineration. And on September 10th, smoke filled the rescue. The rescue was promptly evacuated. Fortunately, no people and no animals were harmed in this situation. But it turns out that the evidence that was being burned was methamphetamine. So everything in the rescue is likely going to have to be destroyed. In addition, even 36 hours after this incident, the rescue was still unable to be occupied. So now we have displaced animals, displaced volunteers, and ultimately chaos. What you've probably learned over the course of listening to this podcast is that these rescues need every bit of help they can possibly get. So I encourage you that if you want to help this rescue, they are struggling right now. If you read the statement on their website, Yellowstone Valley Animal Shelter, their director talks about what they need right now, and what they need right now more than anything is donations. Monetary donations, supplies can be sent to them, because ultimately everything that had to be thrown out needs to be replaced. And it's not like these rescues have reserves of cash to be able to just replace all of these items. My husband brought up a really good point. He said, wouldn't that potentially be an insurance claim? And he very well could be correct. It really just depends on the type of policy they have and whether or not there's any exclusions for government action, which there could be. But either way, even if they do end up getting an insurance payout, there's going to be a deductible involved. There could be time associated with that. And then, of course, they will likely see their premiums increase as a result. So say what you want about insurance, there's probably going to still be some financial consequences for this rescue, even if they are able to file a claim. So let's not necessarily get into the nitty gritty of who should do what. Let's focus on what we can do to help. And I joke around a lot that this podcast has like 30 consistent followers. If every one of those 30 consistent followers just sent over $5 via Venmo or on their website, that's $150 that they didn't have before. So I encourage you, again, go to the website. They have a statement about exactly what happened. Please don't trust any social media articles that you see that are from unverified sources. Their website is www.yvas.org. You can also send them money directly via Venmo at YVAS_MT. Please be careful who you're sending the money to. I went to do it tonight, and there was a duplicate account with a second underscore. So make sure that you're sending it to the correct Yellowstone Valley Animal Shelter Venmo. And so, of course, I'm sure if you subscribe to Amazon or a place like Chewy, they may have wish lists up on there if you would prefer to donate supplies. So thank you for your attention. Thank you for listening. And thank you for any generosity that you can share with the shelter in need.